Hello, everyone, and I hope you're all doing well today. My name is Tanner Dagenais, and I'm the host of Self-Sabotage Solutions. On this podcast, it's my opportunity and my pleasure to be able to share everything I know about self-sabotage, but also to be able to share other people's self-sabotage stories, because it's so important that we know that no matter who we are, where we come from, or what we have experienced in life, that we're all able to overcome self-sabotage. And so today, I'm very grateful and very thankful to have Eric Belsey here on the line. He's a self-sabotage coach, a mindfulness teacher, and a Reiki master. And I think he also teaches the harmonica as well, if I'm correct about that. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Eric. Can you please just introduce yourself, like where you're from, and then we can kind of go into your story.
Well, I was born in the suburbs of Chicago and first moved out west to Salt Lake City, Utah in junior high, and went through junior high and high school there, and went off to Tacoma, Washington for my first college experience. I actually spent quite a bit of time in college to get my first 4-year degree. And then actually lived as a Buddhist monk, a novice Buddhist monk for a while.
Wow.
In England. And well, I finally finished up my degree at Colorado State after that experience in what's called cooperative extension education. If people are aware of the cooperative extension service, it's something that, every state that has a land grant university has what's called the cooperative extension service that's supposedly trying to get that science at the school to the farmers and to the ordinary folks. And that's really one of my adult paths has been, when I'm feeling tough, I call it farming. When I'm feeling realistic, I call it large gardening. And so, but then I eventually found my way to Naropa, where I got a master's degree in religious studies. And Naropa is a Buddhist school. And I don't know, some years ago, I found out about Jason, or found him on Facebook, and was just amazed by all he knew and how helpful he was. And I'm sure people go through, we all have our self-sabotage moments. I've been addicted to cannabis, I've been addicted to alcohol, I've been addicted to caffeine, never really nicotine. But I beat all of those actually before I heard about Jason, and before I started learning about the subconscious mind, how the subconscious mind impacts our how our world, and in this strange, apparently contradictory way. But Jason really makes sense of it, that
Yeah.
there's this dark force sort of directing us, but excuse me, by simply becoming aware of it, we gain power over it, and so that's been a learning that's helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I feel like that information, like learning about the subconscious mind, like should be taught to everyone when they're like, early, like maybe like elementary school or at least like high school, right? Like, because how can we go through school without knowing the about like one like the most powerful parts of our mind, right? That
Yeah.
like this part of our mind that we learn so much with, but like if you walk around and like ask the majority of the people on the street, no one's gonna know what the subconscious mind is. Like they might be like, oh yeah, I've heard of it, but they don't really know what it is or what it does or what its purpose is. And I feel like that is it was a big game changer in my life. So I understand you were able to overcome, alcohol and marijuana and some other addictions as well without the information. Do you want to tell us like how you were able to do that?
Well, like I said, I lived for a couple of years as a novice Buddhist monk, and Buddhism is pretty crystal clear on most addictions. It doesn't really, Buddhism is obviously divided into the monastic community and the lay community, and it forbids alcohol for everyone. But it doesn't really forbid caffeine or cannabis. But I don't think the caffeine or cannabis were really that anywhere near as prominent then, in the time of the Buddha. I mean, how we have a Starbucks on every corner basically
Right.
now. And lots of states are legalizing cannabis consumption again. Um, so I think but in general, it just says don't indulge in intoxicants, in the basic 5 precepts, the basic 5 ethical rules for the lay people, which just step up in intensity. I was a novice monk. And then, full blown monk or nun have a much more serious list of moral rules as to how they are supposed to behave in order to keep the mind clear and advance towards liberation. So
Yeah.
so that really helped me when I realized I'm drinking too much. Wait a minute, didn't the Buddha say something about this? Oh yeah, he said don't do it. And like the caffeine habit, I just really realized that like I was spending a lot of time and money driving around trying to get espresso, and that this is not healthy for me, and when I lived briefly in a couple other types of spiritual communities, and one of them forbid coffee. And at that point, I was deep in my coffee habit. And, when you suddenly take it away, when you're addicted, powerful headaches, and I just realized that this isn't good for me, this isn't working for me. I've got to stop this too. So slowly but surely, I, don't really engage. I will smoke a little bit of nicotine when I'm driving a long distance, but for the most part, it's not the way a smoker smokes, gotta have a cigarette first thing in the morning or something.
Right.
No, it's every few months when I go on a long drive, I will smoke a cigar if I feel drowsy, So, but for the most part, I'm fairly clean living these days.
Right. So you were able to stop those things because do you think it's because like you had joined the group of people who all kind of believed the same thing, like it was bad and like so do you think that helped you because being around like people who all were giving that up as well, that you were joining those groups and like you were part of that tribe where it was kind of, bringing you into that?
Yeah, it really did. When I finally realized how much I was drinking, I had a friend who was fairly involved with AA, and she directed me towards meetings. And I'm not what you call a 12 stepper. Actually, I think it's a bit of a cult. But the main value of AA is sitting and hearing other people's stories and seeing yourself in other people. And I actually spent some time in MA, Marijuana Anonymous, as well, when I finally decided to quit. It's kind of funny. I had pretty successfully quit because I didn't own any paraphernalia anymore. I didn't have any friends who were serious smokers. You know, back in the day before the laws changed, if someone wanted to be an avid marijuana smoker, you had to maintain this sort of chain of dealers, you know, that would have marijuana available for purchase when you had the money and the desire, you know. And so I gave all that up and I got rid of all my paraphernalia. And then they changed the law and I could walk into any store and
Hmm.
buy pre-rolled joints, you know, which I don't think that having marijuana be illegal makes any sense. I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but I'm saying for me, you know, I adjusted my behavior towards it, towards the old illegal days. And then the new legal days, it became a challenge again. But, um, you know, people have different opinions over whether or not smoking cannabis is harmful. It's been harmful to me. I can't judge whether it's harmful to anyone else. I got some benefits from it as well. So, but on balance, I'm happier right now that I'm not bringing any sort of intoxicants, you know, stimulants, anything into my life. So,
Makes sense. Yeah. So you are, have you, so you've been feeling a lot more like clear-minded, like is that why you like it? Because you just feel like you're actually have more control over yourself or
yes,
hmm.
yeah, that I'm not depending on something else, for example, to wake up in the morning, you
Yeah.
know, and face the day. Um, so, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I had something similar with marijuana and alcohol, and I wasn't much of a coffee drinker, but it was usually the energy drinks, and start cutting all back all those. But yeah, I was just kind of like you. I was really like I feel like dependent on marijuana. Like I'd have it all
yeah,
the time just so I could like feel good and relax, right? But then I found myself just getting like stuck, like I would smoke and then I wouldn't do anything afterwards that was productive. And I'd be like, oh, I'm high, I'll do that tomorrow. Then the next day I'd just get high again and I wouldn't do anything. And so I found myself like in this cycle of just like being content with where I was, even though I wasn't actually happy with where I was. And
yeah.
that was really hard for me to break out of at the time. So yeah, I definitely understand that. Um, so has your like consumption of food changed? Like I know when I started learning about like self-sabotage information and started like looking into like health information, I was eating pretty unhealthy at first, like with McDonald's and different things like that. And I did start to really change my diet. I'm sure probably as like someone who went through like the farming and you're into farming, you probably know the
Yeah.
value of eating, like actual natural food that grows in the ground. But curious about how that has changed for you, or what's that look like for you in your life?
Well, you know, when I was much younger, I would eat things like McDonald's and whatnot, you know, and not have a whole lot of guilt or angst over doing that. But I haven't really eaten that for years. You know, I've understood for a long time how important nutrient dense food is. Um, I, I worked actually at a raw milk dairy for a couple of
Awesome.
years. If you've ever heard of the Weston A. Price Foundation,
Yes, I have.
um, you know, and studied, you know, Sally Fallon Morell's. I've actually got her cookbook right over here somewhere, you know, and just really understood that most of the mainstream food we have readily available is garbage, really.
Yep.
Um, and so, yeah, for the most part, you know, I mean, I will occasionally, but and you know, one interesting thing has been I have not been able to eat gluten for years. You know, I don't have celiac disease according to the doctors, But, last time I got a non-alcoholic beer, but it had gluten in it. And that became very messy very quickly, just whatever's in my colon at the time turns to liquid and goes out the other end. And I'd better be by a toilet when that's happening. Um, so I don't, I like cake and pancakes and pizzas and, but freshly baked bread, but I don't really feel tempted by it anymore because, I run screaming for the bathroom with just a little bit of gluten. So I'm what my second ex-wife called a glutard. uh, but yeah, just in general, I think I eat better quality food than most people do. You know, we did not have a very successful garden here where I'm living last year, but I will do better this year.
What kind of things are you growing on your garden?
Well, the things that grow in Colorado, you know, kale and cucumbers and squash, carrots, beets. Um, I really like a leafy green called sorrel. Um, and
That's
yeah,
awesome.
most everything that grows successfully, Colorado's got a relatively short growing season, but we have high sun during the summer. So peppers, tomatoes, you know,
Yeah, I actually tried my hand at gardening. Well, I have a um like a gardening bag like like out of the ground like bag that's like breathable, and
yeah.
I grew some little baby bell peppers, and they're actually still growing right now. I'm planning on overwintering them here soon, but uh
Wow.
they've been really like produced a lot. Like I started late into the season, which I wish I would have started a little early, but I've already gotten like 5 different batches of them, like probably like 100 plus peppers, and they're delicious little guys. So enjoy
Where
that.
are you at?
I'm in South Carolina, Columbia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our growing season is definitely much longer than Colorado's, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really important to like grow your own food and kind of see that process. I wish more people would be taught that information, like in school and things like that. Because I feel like when I first started the process, I had like no idea what I was doing. I actually just took some seeds right out of some baby bell peppers from like the grocery store, some organic
Mhm.
ones I got, and just threw them in some soil, and they actually grew. So I was happy about that. But uh, gonna try my hand at some like onions probably, and some potatoes, and maybe some garlic or something next year. Maybe some
Right on.
little tomatoes as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome.
Well,
Or sorry, what were we gonna say?
garlic is traditionally planted the fall before the summer that you want to eat it. So,
Good to know. I
you
guess
know,
I should have thought about that a couple months ago.
yeah, but
Right. So for a big I feel like a big part of overcoming self-sabotage like is addressing like your like thoughts, like negative thinking, and like, you know, being down on yourself or doubting yourself. Can you share with us like what that looked like for you, and have you like altered that since you think learning about like the subconscious mind has really helped you realize how important that is, or
well, learning about the subconscious mind has helped me understand, you know, Jason has this real kind of explanation about, you want to get along and go along with the herd. Frankly, the herd is not a very healthy place to be, especially these days. So, Um, but I guess I first learned about meditation when I was like 17. I came across a book about transcendental meditation. That's, another technique in my high school library. And then I went to the monastery for the first time when I was 24. I went on my first meditation retreat when I was 21 in Thailand. My sister lived in Thailand, and most of my spiritual career has been spent in Thai Buddhist or um, monasteries that come from a Thai tradition. Um, so I've spent a lot more time than the average bear, I would say, looking at my mind and looking at my thoughts and not buying into my thoughts, you know, noticing when my thoughts are becoming negative and self-judgmental and, working with them rather than believing them, buying into them. So, and, but Jason's info about the subconscious mind has really helped me understand that we have a part of us that wants to conform to what the herd is doing around us, but what the herd is not doing, or what the herd is doing around us, is not terribly healthy, so seeing that tendency and putting a halt to it has
Right.
really helped me a lot.
Yep. So it has helped you kind of realize that, like, why you're taking some of the actions you may be taking, or why you might be drawn to certain things, even if you're
Yes.
not taking the action. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so important to understand, like, why we are like getting those thoughts towards to do something, or there's urges or those cravings, because I think a lot of people just feel like, oh, that's just me, and that's just who I am, and I can't change anything like that, right? um oh, I think we lost you, or your video at least.
Here,
Oh, there we go, you're back.
back again.
It's
Okay, don't know what happened there.
all good. But yeah, pretty much like what I was saying is like, you know, we, like, so many people I think just don't have like that understanding of like where those beliefs come from. And so a lot of them just feel like they are trapped, or like they're stuck with those negative thoughts. Um, it's awesome that you've had a lot of your, like, like the Buddhist meditation and things like that, because I feel like you started that so early. I feel like that was like, seems like it was a very like helpful thing to do, as like, getting in touch with yourself, and like really like getting closer with yourself, and like understanding your mind and doing that meditation. Do you think that
Yes.
was really beneficial to you?
Yeah, it's been a major part of how I've stayed sane. Wow. I mean, obviously, the world generally has gone off the edge over the last 3 years, and being able to stay calm within myself, and I'd like to be more helpful to more people. And I'm slowly working on that process. Um,
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming on to the podcast and sharing your story, I think that that's a good first step to, help other people. Just kind of, I feel like a lot of people can usually relate to a lot of the things we share in our stories. And, um,
yeah,
just sometimes just hearing someone else's story can really make a difference in their lives, and, help them, like, encourage them and give them that I know, like, every time I'm hearing one of the other stories from someone coming on, it's just, I'm always amazed, and always just so grateful to be able to talk to you guys and to learn
Yeah,
and hear more.
great.
Yeah. Um, so is there anything else you want to talk about with your story or anything with self-sabotage that you've encountered or anything like that?
Um, I'd be happy to play a little music for you if you'd want that.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to hear some music. The harmonica?
Yeah, that's what I do.
How long have you been doing the harmonica?
Since I was 17.
Awesome. Are you going to play us a song that you've kind of wrote yourself, or is it a song that you like to, like a song that other people might know?
I'll play a song that people will know.
Okay.
I've done this. Um, I've played for people a lot, and I've written a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Mhm.
And I find part of that is here in Colorado, people generally want to hear covers more than they want to hear original music. So,
That's fair.
for example,
Nice. That's awesome. What song is that? I know that song, but it's not coming to my mind.
that is Bach.
Oh yeah, okay. That's what it is.
It's Bach. It goes way back. It's called Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. Good for the Christmas season. Um, but yeah, it's a good, simple little tune that impresses folks that my abilities are slightly different than most of the people going, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome. I was like, I know I've heard that song before, but I was like, where is that from?
yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
Bach.
Great. So do you do like gigs? You go out and play?
I do. Um, a friend of mine, another person named Eric, and he's a guitarist, and I'm and a singer, and I play a little bit of guitar. If you play the harmonica for a while, you quickly figure out that you'd better learn something about the guitar too. Um, but yeah, we go out and play some open mics. And for example, he and his wife are putting on a New Year's party with an open mic at it. So, the two of us will be hosting that open mic, and I, in my younger years, I played more at bars and, was played with a band. We actually did some recording. So, I've kind of done a fair amount, but I just recently lived in Beulah, Colorado for a while, which is a couple miles, south of here, south of Pueblo, Colorado, very rural area. So, and I found a few open mics that I like there, and where, I tend to play open mics, and then they do some kind of invite only open mic, and I tend to get invited to the invite only open mic. So it's definitely been a major part of my social life. And when I'm feeling crazy or down, I can kind of always remind myself that I can do this thing in a way that not a whole lot of people can. I don't like to brag, but frankly, there's a lot more harmonicas in America than there are talented harmonica players. But whatever, things came together that I figured out how to play this and how to do it in a more committed manner than many people do. So,
Right. That's awesome. Do you feel like it helps you kind of like relieve stress and stay away from like smoking marijuana to do so, or alcohol or things like that because you have that as like a way to relieve stress or take your mind off it or
yeah, it has definitely helped me, but for some reason Americans locate their live music next to alcohol all the
yeah.
time,
Mm-hmm.
so but I don't really struggle, I don't
Right.
sit in the car outside the liquor store going, oh, I don't feel any temptation. I haven't consumed really any alcohol for years. So,
That's awesome.
except in one ceremony I did with a community I was trying to start. It was like everyone take a toast kind of thing, but it wasn't, and I just knew that, all right, you're going to drink a little alcohol, stop then,
Mm-hmm.
don't drink more, you know, and I didn't really get drunk or anything. I just did my ceremonial part, was part of the team and whatever, you know, it's all I've drank for years. So,
It's awesome. Yeah, I feel like you save so much money and just time without drinking, like
yeah,
when I look back and think about like how much money I used to spend on alcohol and how much of my time I used to spend just like drunk or hungover, it just like blows my mind.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's nice to have all that back for sure.
exactly. Do you feel like you are is there any areas like in your life you are actively like addressing self-sabotage now or looking at like overcoming self-sabotage and if so like what are those like what kind of steps are you taking like so if like the listeners are here trying to do the
Mhm.
same with their life like what are the things you're doing in your life right now to help
Oh,
address it.
one of the interesting things I'm dealing with is clutter.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reasonably economically comfortable. I don't have any sort of compulsion to acquire stuff, but over the years, I have quite a bit of things that I would rather keep than throw away. And frankly, they're not terribly well organized, and so that's an area which I see as self-sabotage, that I can continue working on. I need to continue working on. So,
Great, awesome. So are you just addressing that through like you're like through thinking about like do I actually need this thing or like how are you gonna what's your plan for addressing it.
well, my plan for addressing it is getting the stuff better organized. Uh, Frankly, I don't need to get rid of a whole lot of it. Um, but yeah, it's just a long, slow process. If you've ever watched like Hoarders, ever seen that show?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
People who are absolutely buried in stuff. Um, I don't see myself like that, but I see myself as having the potential to get there,
Hmm.
is possibility. So,
Right.
but
Makes sense. Um,
so I'm slowly
okay.
working on it.
Yeah, right, right, right. Are you doing anything like actively like affirmations or like hypnosis or anything like that you're actively doing right now?
Well, I meditate just about
Yeah.
daily in the morning for an hour, which is longer than most people do.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, I the ability to do that gives me the ability to slow down and listen to what the little voice is saying in my head, and like I said, not buy into it, not believe it, just sort of, step back and say, okay, hold on. Are you really being helpful to yourself or not? Kind of thing. So,
Yep. Yep. Being conscious of what you're actually thinking about,
yeah,
not just like letting it slip by. Yep. That's so
yeah.
important. Awesome. Okay. Well, I feel like we've talked about a lot of good different things. Oh, I actually had a question. The Reiki, when did you start going into that, and have you been practicing that for long, or what does that look like?
Um, 4 or 5 years ago, I went down to Guatemala and made some friends there, and two of them were very interested and involved with Reiki, and they just kind of said, "Hey, lay back, let us try this on you." And it's on the short list of what I call initiations. I mean, I felt this white, you know, peaceful energy flowing through me like I'd never felt before. And so eventually I went through the whole process. Um, you know, here's my
Oh, yeah, the
Reiki
book.
Master Manual. Um, William Lee Rand is a teacher of Reiki over in Japan, but he teaches a lot online now. And, you know, I've been somewhat involved with some Reiki groups. Obviously, they went away during what I call the COVIDiocy, you know, but every day after I meditate, try to go through, there's five major symbols that you learn on the path to being a Reiki master. And I go through those, and, I just definitely feel like it's expanded me in some way, you know? I'm more aware of invisible energies and how to interact with them because of what I learned through Reiki. And I will, I'm in a moment of seeing a lot more people sociably these days, and like went to and as a result, it's a strange positive side effect of what I call the COVIDiocy, but people are actively seeking other like-minded people in a way that I didn't, they didn't before, you know, um, with a sense of urgency that, okay, they want to separate us out completely from sociability with other human beings. And, I knew before that the small group of people that actually control our society really want to divide us. They are really highly motivated to separate us, make us afraid of each other. I mean, frankly, the Nazis did the same thing in Germany. They told people that the undesirable people had a communicable disease and they needed to be hidden away somewhere, you know. But I think, you know, a lot of people are becoming more interested in pursuing basic friendship, you know. Like I just posted on a Telegram group I'm on of local people. Oh, I'm going to that meeting tonight, you know. Here's the time, here's the place. Someone in that group saw it and said, "Oh, my brother lives right nearby you, my twin brother," you know, and gave me his phone number. And I called and talked to him, and we're going to get together and play some harmonica.
That's
You
awesome.
know, just my social milieu is expanding recently, you know, so that feels good.
Yeah, I feel like that's super important, and that's I feel like something that really caused a lot of problems with the whole COVID conspiracy or whatever. What was your
Mm-hmm.
name for it? COVID,
COVID.
COVID. Yeah, because like I feel like we lost a lot of that communication. People
Yeah,
got like locked themselves in their homes, and um, actually right around that time is when I moved to South Carolina. So I was really hard making friends because everyone was locked in and like scared of each other, and
yeah,
uh, so that's something I'm working on too. Is kind of trying to meet more people out here and kind of you know get that communication because yeah, it's so important to be able to communicate with people and um, really surround yourself with people. And I think finding like-minded people is also really important. You know, so that's
yeah.
awesome.
Actually, I moved to Florida for a while during the past couple of years. And that didn't work out in terms of the community and the folks I was living with, so I came back to Colorado. But
Uh, I have a question actually. There's something that came up when you were talking about that. So it seems like you've done like a lot of different things where you're like increasing your knowledge and learning as much as possible. Do you read a lot of books? Is it something that you actively try to do? Is like learn as much as possible? I think that's so important in overcoming self-sabotage. Is just increasing your knowledge base and like investing in yourself.
yeah, I am this room I'm sitting in, I'm absolutely surrounded by books. Um, you know, I kind of go upwards and downwards on how much reading I actually get accomplished. Um, the world of podcasting has dramatically affected my world. I was running a urban farm. Well, when I'm feeling gritty, I call it an urban farm. When I'm feeling realistic, I call it a suburban farm. Here in Littleton, and when I did that, I got a iPod for the first time and listened, you know, daily. Have you ever heard of Mark Passio?
I think I've heard his name before.
Yeah, he's a pretty prominent teacher on the, let's call it, anarchist voluntarist world, and he actually was a satanic priest for a little while,
Wow.
and then realized that these people aren't up to something good, and so went the other way and tried to educate a lot of people about, Satanism. And so his podcasts, and then he runs a large site called the One Great Work Network.
Mhm.
Um, and his podcasts and a guy from England named Mark Devlin, I've learned a lot from them. Um, Mark Devlin tends to interview or be interviewed by a lot of like-minded folks who are, dealing with the current mess in the world.
Mhm.
Um, so that has helped me a lot, and accelerating my learning and understanding. I really like listening to Jason's podcast. And when Jason gets interviewed on someone else's podcast, I'll listen to that. Um, but so, yeah, I try to keep learning as much as I can, tolerate. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
And one last question. So, or I guess more like if you for any listeners out there, if they're looking at overcoming self-sabotage in their life, what is one thing you'd want them to take away from this podcast? As far as like something they can go out and do, or something that they should be focusing on to be able to overcome self-sabotage in their life.
I cannot overemphasize the importance of meditation,
Mhm.
the importance of being able to calm down your body and mind and really look at what's going on without a lot of reactivity. And I think it's one of the major ways to get closer to the subconscious mind and to calm down enough that you can see what it's doing. And notice your reactions and your thoughts. And so, and there's another form which is called mindfulness based stress reduction, MBSR, if you ever heard of that. It's what you'd call a more secular, less religious form of meditation. Although, if there are contemplative Christians or other Buddhists or Jews or Muslims or whatever, whatever you got, it's fine. If it motivates you to calm down and look what's going on within your heart and mind, um, then that really helps. And, you know, obviously, I think studying teachers like Jason, who really makes very clear the subconscious mind and how we can, work with it. We'll never get rid of it. It's always going to be there. But the question of how much power it has over us is what's really driving things. So,
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like meditation is so important and really getting that knowledge for the subconscious mind and like you
yeah,
said, learning from others. I think that's awesome. Um,
yeah.
okay, great. Well, it's really been a pleasure having you on here, Eric. Uh,
Thank you, Tanner.
Enjoyed speaking with you, hearing your harmonica songs from Bach. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's been great. I will have to keep in touch, and um, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks for coming on.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks everyone, and make sure you guys like and subscribe and share and give us a comment if you guys want to ask us any questions. Uh, Eric, if you have any links, I'll put them down in the description below so people can find you or find your work if you are interested in doing that. And then I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day and thanks for listening.
Yeah, I'll just give out an email address if someone wants to contact me. I don't really have an active internet presence.
Perfect.
But yeah,
Great.
if someone has a question, wants to contact me, I'll give you an email address.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll put Eric's email address down below in the description, guys. So thank you all for listening. Thank you, Eric, and I hope you guys all
Thank
have a good
you.
day.